Hey everyone, welcome to the Farm Fresh Marketers Weekly Zoom. And this week, I'm excited to talk to you guys about your farm story and your origin story. Um, for us, for me personally, I've always wanted to be a person who's a good storyteller, and I had probably one of the best storytellers ever as a part of my life, and my grandpa Tom, and got to spend a lot of time with him here at his ranch in Kimberly, and just soaking it all in. Unfortunately, like our family always talked about this, and no one ever did it. Is no one ever sat down with him and just with a recorder and just listened to all of his stories and recorded them and documented them, and or sat down and wrote them out, and created any kind of articles or books about his stories, because they were just so good. Like, not only did he remember all the details, the names and featured like geographical locations and things. Like, he was really, really funny. And um, yesterday his youngest brother Mackie passed away, and Grandpa's the only one left of the 8 kids from his generation, 8 siblings, and it's just it's hard to see the generations move on, especially when the journey hasn't been documented. For us today, sorry, for us today, it's just so easy. Most of us have a smartphone, or something that we can just record with, and take pictures with digital photos and social media, and how easy it is to put up a blog or web page or anything else today, to just show that journey and document it, is unbelievable. I couldn't imagine being able to jump into a video of what my great grandpa Patrick was going through, and the hardships that him and Catherine faced, and raising 8 kids with no electricity, in the middle of absolutely nowhere, Lone Rock, Oregon. It's just so amazing to like start to feel what it is that they went through. And for us, since that journey wasn't documented, oh, sorry, I'll mute that real quick. For us, since that journey wasn't documented, we we like we have our watch with our kids, Little House on the Prairie, to kind of remind them and remind us what it was really, what were some of the hardships that they faced that are just not even a part of our world today. And it's amazing how far things have come in such a short period of time. But yeah, I just want to encourage you, you know get uncomfortable, share your story, talk about the journey, and document what's going on. Brendan Burchard, I think, said this best about how he can spend time on social media, and like how he's able to do it and not get sucked into all the different things that are going on within social media. And he said, I am not a consumer of social media, I'm a producer in social media. So he's producing content that will give value to those people that are following him. And I think that's how we need to look at it. We need to look at it as we're producing content that hopefully future generations will see and learn from. Even if you put a video or blog post out there or something, and no one sees it, no one likes it, it's still there. It's still documented for future generations to come back to and check out. Like that, there's no amount of money in the world that I would pay to go back. I mean, there's yeah, I would pay any amount of money, and sorry if I said that wrong. I would pay any amount of money in the world to be able to go back and look at history and see the struggles and see the triumphs that my family faced through the 1800s and I mean, through the past 100 years, and see everything. And we have that ability, guys. It's so easy today. And I think a lot of us get in our own heads, and we get held back as to like, what what if I'm offending someone, or fill in the blank. Or I'm uncomfortable doing this. I can completely relate with that. I was the shyest kid in our school, like ever. Like I didn't have my only friends until I was 12 years old were my dogs. Like, well, my one dog, Bernie, and my brother, and we, typical brothers, we didn't always get along. So I was completely uncomfortable until um, I found a way in to be able to express myself through sport, and that was baseball. And I was really bad. I didn't. I struggled through little league. Didn't really find my groove because I didn't really have a good coach. And then in high school, our varsity head coach was at the time, may still be, the winningest coach in Oregon State history in high school at any level. And he's just an amazing person and helped me shape into the person that I am today, um, through just getting comfortable, like getting outside of your comfort zone to get comfortable. And that's something, that you have to do to be able to get out and start sharing your story and documenting things, and being like getting to a point where you're comfortable doing it and you can do it really, really well. So today I wanted to share with you kind of my origin story with this community of farm fresh marketers. But before I dive into that, I wanted to share with you really quick, um, one of the only, as far as I'm aware of, one of the only articles or things that's been documented about my personal family heritage on my dad's side, um, with the Campbell family. And so I'm just going to share that with you really quick here. Sorry, just well, it won't let me. For some reason, it will not let me. Wonder. Dang it. Yeah, it's not letting me get rid of my photo there. So I'm just gonna hide down here. So this is an article that was written about my great grandfather Patrick Campbell and his journey. Age of 21, he came to America in 1903 with a fifth grade education. He worked in trade for sheep, and over the course of time, the sheep market boomed, and he sold everything, and he had $70,000 in 1917. So he'd worked for 14 years and amassed $70,000 in those years. So I checked, 70,000 back then is $1.5 million today. And he worked just in trade for sheep, and obviously, like, sheep, multiply. And over that period of time, every year they're having, twins and triplets, and like you're getting a bigger and bigger herd or flock. And he amassed that and went to New York City, with the plans of moving to Argentina. And there he met his wife, Catherine, and they decided, another Irish immigrant, and they decided to move back to Oregon and raise their family in Oregon, start a family in Oregon. And they found the Andrew Neil Ranch in Lone Rock, which is just an isolated, tiny town. And I actually have two of the AN brands here. They're still the original brand, still used today there in Lone Rock. And they raised 8 kids through the Great Depression with no electricity, and it hit the Great Depression, and the Campbell property was foreclosed on. And a Condon Bank general store owner, James Burns, helped finance them to be able to bring back their operation. They started to diversify, and that's when they started in cattle. And so that was the Great Depression. And then in 1949, they purchased this property here in Kimberly. Like, it's amazing to me just to see. Oh, I skipped World War II. So yeah, my grandpa quit school to help work on the ranch, and never went back to school. Never got a high school degree. and went back to the ranch. And then in 1949, they purchased the property here in Kimberly, where my grandpa lived out his life, um, until the recent few years when he's been in assisted living. Um, and now Julie and I live in that home, and we're raising our kids in the home that my grandpa um, and Grandma Claris had raised my dad and his siblings in. And so the 8 kids, gosh, what else? They walked or rode horses 2.5 miles to school in Lone Rock. Like, this is just, there's so much here in these two small pages. This is everybody that was alive at the time, the 5 of the siblings, and now my grandpa, there in the cowboy hat with the teapot, is the only one who's still alive at 94. His brother Mackie, standing up in the sheep camp, passed away yesterday. His brother Jimmy with the cane, he passed away when I was, gosh, 25. Um, John John passed away before Jimmy, so it must have just been right after this article. And Patsy in the wheelchair there actually passed away more recently. I think she passed away about five years ago. But of the 8 kids, 5 were still alive when this article was published in 2003. And there's so much history within just our one small family. And this is it. Like, I'm sure there's other, I know there's other photographs. I've seen other photographs. I know that there's other stories and things that have been written about my family. But it's not documented. Like, this article is a documentation of what happened and what my family, like, what their journey was. And that's what I encourage you to do, is just, if your family is like ours, it goes generations back, look for things like this. You probably already have them, but ask around and start to document not only your journey, but also the generations that came before you, their journeys as well. A couple other things I wanted to add in here is this publication is right here above my picture. So they had purchased this property in 1949 when the co-op had brought power to this area, and this was the Simeotti Ranch. And right before that, this isn't actually in this article, but before, in the next part there, we turned to Basque shepherds from Spain to help manage the sheep and help run the ranches. And one of my grandpa's early shepherds is still helping our neighbors shear their sheep and our friends shear their sheep. His name is Gregorio, goes by Greg now, and he lives up in Armiston. And it's so neat to know that his life here is because of this. It's because my family brought him in, and we actually have the documents of my grandpa Patrick working with the Spanish government to find shepherds to bring them over here and get their work visas and all that. So this publication, it probably only went out to 500 people. Our local power organization is a co-op, like many, and every month they put together something called the Ruralite, which is just, I don't know if you get them in your area, but it just kind of talks about a few things going on, shares some recipes and electrical safety thing, and it's probably 20 pages. It's a really small thing, and this was written about my family, and just having this means so much to me. But to have something documented, like a lot of these things that are written in here, I could research and find out, or others in the family may have already researched and found out, but no one in my family has actually taken the time like this author did, to just document it all out. And it's just in 2 short pages. And it's just, I don't know, that it's such a touching story that is not going anywhere. This is, um, always going to be a part of our family heritage. And, generations from now, they can see this, they can look back and they can know, like, wow, that was my great, 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 great grandpa, however far down you want to go. So that's why I'm so passionate about encouraging you guys to just share, like just document your journey and stop caring about how many likes you get or comments or shares or anything else when you're just like telling the story and documenting. It's different if you're trying to put an ad out there and drive traffic to an offer and, different things like that. Then certainly you want to look at your engagements with it, especially when you're spending money on it. But if you are legitimately just sharing and telling your story, then with that, just do it, just tell it. And even if only one person sees that and that starts to impact their life, the trickle effect of that is amazing. So, yeah, that's a little bit of my family heritage. And for me personally in this journey with Farm Fresh Marketers, it started, gosh, so my journey actually started in, I think it was the same year as that article. I think it was 2003, when I had just graduated college. I think it was 22, turning 23. No, 22 years old. And I had just graduated college with a business degree and a minor in entrepreneurship. And I thought I could rule the world. Like, seriously, I had this diploma. I started looking for jobs. I was like, I'm an entrepreneur, man. I've got a degree. I know all this stuff about business. I'm excited. I've read these books. Like, I'm charged up and ready to go. And so I found an opportunity called College Works Painting, where they basically get you an area that they serve. It's a nationwide company. You have a little region, and then that's your region. Like, any painting jobs that go to that company in that region become yours. And so a lot of it, though, they're not doing it for you. You actually go and you knock on doors and do all the legwork to get signs up and to get flyers out and to get your name out there and free estimates. And you go and you physically do the estimate and do face-to-face sales. So it was a big dose of reality for me. It was so different than school, a lot, and that's like a lot of things. The best experience that you can get is hands-on, actually doing something. And I gained so much from it that I didn't see at the time. Young kid. I my first time ever hiring employees. I had a lot of turnover, and I found one guy who was stuck with me for a while, and he, looking back, most certainly was on meth. One time during his lunch break, he jumped up on top. Like, we were doing a 4-story house, and the owner had talked to us about, if we wanted to make a little bit extra money, we could clean her gutters for her. And one time during his lunch break, he just jumps up and he's literally running around the roof of this 4-story, like, very steep roof. Just run his knee, scrape out leaves, run his knee, scrape out the leaves. Like, just no fear in the world. And that's why I'm like, man, he has to be on something. And then my cousin came to work for me, and he's like, hey, Nate, that guy, he's on, like, that is meth. Like, he's on meth. I'm like, oh, well, crap. Okay. And so, hindsight, he did quite a few things that could have given me the opportunity to fire him, but never did. So anyways, we go to another job, finish that one up, go to another job, and this one is a newer home. So that one was a late 1800 home with, like, really bad paint that was just everywhere, and we had to use this aggressive scraper to peel it off. We go to the next house, and it's, you know, five-year-old home, probably valued at $1 million, like really fancy home, super nice cedar siding. And we had finished, everything was painted, and I asked him to just clean off some of the caulking. So in between the cedar where they butt up, we had put caulking in there, and he used the aggressive scraper that we used on the 100-plus-year-old home to gouge out the caulking, and in that cedar, it literally cut grooves on every single seam. Like, he finished. And my intention was, we had a little razor blade that you use to scrape paint off the window when you accidentally hit the window. I should have told him specifically to use that and to be very gentle. Didn't think it through. You know, that's one of the huge lessons that I learned, was when you're giving instructions, you have to give very, very detailed instructions. And yeah, I got back. I'm like, whoa, what'd you do? Because you could see it from the street. Like, he'd literally, like, it's what we painted it like a light gray, but the wood was like line, 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 and it's like everywhere. Like, this house looked polka dotted. I'm like, I just returned the paint sprayer. Like, what'd you do? And he told me, I'm like, man, this is really bad. I gotta let you go. Like, I fired him, and called my boss within the company, and he calls the VP, and they're like, yeah, this is really bad. We gotta let you go. And he had done $50,000 in damage to this house, and that was my introduction to entrepreneurship. And from that point on, it's like, wow, okay, I think I don't know if this is for me. So I kept kind of searching, and at the time, you know, it wasn't really a job. Well, it wasn't really a passion search. It was a job search. You know, fresh out of college, not a ton of experience, just got fired. My first time ever being like fired from something. And I found an opportunity with Hertz as a management trainee, and I did that for a while. It's kind of another sales-ish position. And then went on to Rite Aid as a management trainee there and did retail. And at that time, my grandpa here at the cattle ranch had gotten pancreatitis, or actually, we didn't know that he had pancreatitis. Had gone into the hospital, severe dehydration, and they had found out that he had pancreatitis. And he'd always kind of been a heavy drinker, and you know, most just a social drinker is how I should say it, not a heavy drinker. This is water. um, and At the time, I'm like, you know, he didn't have anyone. He didn't have a hired man or anyone here helping him. Sorry, another call. And So I talked to him and talked to my dad and a few other people, and my mom, and decided I was going to take a leave of absence from my job at Rite Aid and go and work on the cattle ranch. I'm like, gosh, this will be a great time to discover if this is for me, if I want to be a rancher. And I came back or came over, and um, the real world hit me again, because he turned 80 years old that year, and I got to see a lot of things. Like, I got to see, one, how loved he was. You know, there were over 500 people that showed up here in Kimberly, and Kimberly is like, we are 3 hours away from a Costco. Like, it really is the middle of Oregon, kind of middle of nowhere in an unincorporated town. There's one stoplight in the county, and they had 500 people show up at his 80th birthday, and it was just amazing just to see how much like love he had from other people, and how much impact he had made on other people. And in hindsight, I can now see like what it was that he had, like why he had like this he had this storytelling ability, but he also connected with people on a personal level, and like he was caring and also passionate about what he did. Very knowledgeable. Even though he didn't graduate high school, he read at least 5 papers every day. He was always reading the newspapers and up on any current events and reading different books and trade magazines and different things, and always a student. And when I worked with him, like I was in phenomenal shape. I probably at the time the best shape of my life, six pack, just could run forever. And he outworked me. Like, and at 80 years old, he outworked me. Just in the heat, digging, uh, digging the main line up, digging up the pipe, and I was spent. And he kept going. I'm like, I had to sit down and take a break, and that was a moment when I'm like, I can't work hard enough to be a rancher. He's at 80 years old and he's doing this no problem. Like I, it's not for me. Like I'm not a hard enough worker to be able to do that. And what I came to realize is, it's not that he was a hard worker at it. He didn't see it as work. For him, this was his passion. Like he loved everything about cattle ranching. He'd done it since he was like born, sheep and cattle. But he had this passion about him that it just didn't matter. Like, I don't, it doesn't matter if it's hot, it doesn't matter if I'm tired, it doesn't matter if it's 110 degrees and all I have to drink is this warm water and we haven't eaten breakfast. You know, like he just went and enjoyed it and loved it. And for me, I didn't just get to see hard work displayed. I got to see passion displayed. And I think that's really what I didn't see then that I can look back on and see now, is that's the impact that he had made on my life. And instead, I looked at it as, wow, this is hard work. Um, I need to find something that's not this hard. Like I guess I'm suited for the office environment or some other corporate career. And um, not long after I left the ranch, as he was kind of preparing things um, to sell, he my aunt Lisa, his daughter, called me and said that there was a potential job with the engineering firm that she was part of. And so I went over, I met with the VP, Bob, and you know, he's just such a charismatic leader. He's just old Iowa farm boy, and he comes in, gives me a hug, and he's like, "So your aunt says you played baseball?" Like, yeah, I play baseball. And he's like, "We're looking for somebody to play left field for our softball team. Is that something you might be interested in?" And I'm like, it's a long commute from, I was in Salem at the time. It's a long commute from Salem, Bob. He's like, "Oh, don't worry, we'll pay to move you over here and give you a job and everything else. But I just got to know if you're interested in softball." So I'm like, sure. So that was the start of my career in project controls and softball, corporate softball, which I was pretty good, but his team was stacked. Like, he had he was in his 60s and not athletic. Um, but he had these guys that were just like every I'm professional softball players. They actually, like, three of them actually played in a traveling league that would go to tournaments in Las Vegas and all over. Like it was pretty cool. So I definitely wasn't the best player on the team, um, but yeah, this it's funny that that was my first real interview into this career that I took that took me 10 years on this journey from Calgary back, like all over with my wife, and created all these opportunities, got us our first home. It's what I was doing when we started our family. Got to be a part of some like huge, amazing projects. Um, you know, tons of people that I met and networked with. And it wasn't until our, gosh, when was it? Okay, so I don't know exactly the year, but it would have been 5 years ago. This past December, Julie and I were at the shopping mall in the Tri Cities, and I saw all the teenagers walking around. It's like, what's going on? Um, why are all the teenagers just walking around here and like, not really, it doesn't look like they're shopping. Like, what are they doing? It's like, well, they're just here to hang out. I'm like, what are they? They just come to the mall just to hang out? He's like, yeah. I'm like, huh. Did you like? She grew up over by Portland and Beaverton. And I was like, did you grow up, or did you go to the shopping malls just to hang out? She's like, yeah. And I go, do you want that for our girls? And she's like, no. In that week, talked to my dad, and he knew about. Well, we talked a lot. Like we talked to Julie and I talked, and my family talked, and like my brother is down here managing cattle ranch. My dad and some family members end up buying it, the Kimberly property from my grandpa. Um, Not long after I started my corporate job. But my brother was down here managing it and doing things traditionally, and I had done a lot of like things to try to help them kind of transition into grass-fed beef and do different things to become more profitable. And a lot of it wasn't sticking, and I think a lot of it is just that he didn't have time to start implementing new things. Like he was kind of learning too. Like it takes a long time to really understand cattle ranching and the whole industry. And, it just, the timing I don't think was right. And had we decided to move here to Kimberly at that time, I think it definitely would have been, could have cost me my relationship with my brother and would not have been a good long-term thing for us as a family. And so we found some property, 160 acres outside of Spray, which is in the least populated, highest poverty rate county in Oregon, and moved our family down there, and got 50 pair of cattle that we basically leased from Campbell Crossings, the ranch here in Kimberly, and started managing the cattle, started doing all the irrigation, and trying to grow grass and pasture and do the things that I had read about. And we had chickens that were pasture chickens that were following our cattle herd that we moved every day, and it's just absolutely beautiful. Perfect sunrises every morning, just right out of our bedroom window, and there on the John Day River where we caught every day. We'd go out and catch bass, and it was a struggle. Like financially, we were okay because I was still telecommuting. I was able to keep my um, position with Caltech part time, and so I was able to continue telecommuting. And Julie had worked at the school, and we're able to bring some income in, and but we weren't the farming, the ranching wasn't generating income for us, and I needed to find a way to do that. Like I knew long term telecommuting and doing my corporate job wasn't going to be the solution for me. And I still had kind of in the back of my mind, I still had that like entrepreneurial spirit. And then a friend of us asked us if we were going to do an event for the total solar eclipse. And I'm like, I don't know about that. And Julie's like, hell no. We are not going to have a bunch of crazy people come to our property and, watch some sun thing. And as we got to talking more about it, and as the press got bigger and bigger, I'm like, Julie, we live on a public river, so folks could float down the river, and up to the high water mark is public land, which on our place is a lot. Like it was a really spread out area, and we could have hundreds of people just camped right there and having to deal with them. And she's like, all right, forget it. With this, we can have volunteers come. we can, be a part of it with, we can do it in a bit. Like, sure, why not? Let's do it. And so in 3 months' time, we got our first dose of real marketing. Worked with a friend who actually helped create that, and he knew ads and new marketing and that, and just helped us here and there. And we were able to sell out. Had 500 people come out to our clips, and learned a ton from doing our very first event. Like you're supposed to start small, and we went big with our first one. But yeah, it was fantastic. And then kind of that happened, and I had a major surgery, and like our life. No, I had the major surgery before that. Wow. Um, and then yeah, we oh man, we decided to sell grass-fed beef when I was trying to figure out, like, how are we going to do this. And at the same time, as we're doing this, my grandpa had moved into assisted living, and his place was going to be listed up for sale. So it's like we need something. We need an opportunity. Like, we're going in. So started doing grass-fed beef, and it was slow at first, and then we got marketing help, and it like just kind of took off on us, and it grew really, really quick. And I had to learn through mistakes. I didn't have people out there that had done it before. Like, there's maybe only 2 or 3 companies in Oregon that were shipping frozen beef. And on our first attempt to ship, um, because I'm a little bit hard-headed, I like to do things by myself. I feel like a lot of farmers and ranchers are that way, to where you you're the first to offer help, but you're the last to ask for any help. And so I was that way with our shipping, and sent out $4,000 in orders, and it didn't have nearly enough dry ice or the right packing materials, and half of them spoiled in transit. And that was a blow. Um, you know, getting all these images of just like a big bloody box that showed up on somebody's doorstep, and like, it's just terrible. Not to mention, the lost inventory and cost and everything of it. And then I'm like, whoa. Next time, definitely doing that different. I think next time I'll try it out at home. And that's what we did. It's like, got some different materials, tried it out at home. Like, no more drags. Tried it out at home again. There, we're set. Okay, that's what we can do with this box. Let's try a bigger box. Okay, do that. Works. So what I found is, like, a lot of the things we were doing, the mistakes that we were making, could have been avoided had I had people that had been there before, had people to talk to, like a community of people. I was like, gosh, that's what I can do. And I kind of got this idea, and I started looking at, as we grew, our grass beef business grew too quick. Like, we had, in the matter of less than a year, we had 2,500 customers. At one point, we had 800 orders in our queue, and it was just me. Like, Julie, she had different things going on. Like, and it became too much for her. She's not an entrepreneur. She's like, she didn't have the passion for that. She didn't want to just bust her tail just to be able to get folks their beef. And so it was just me, learning as I went. And, it overwhelmed me and became something that I didn't want anymore. And I had to look at things. I had to slow down. I just had to, at one point, just pause. And fortunately, I was able to get substantial loan from my mom to basically be able to take any of the debts with the business and just pause them, and be able to evaluate, like, whoa, where do we go from here? Like, how can we fix it? Like, okay, what caused this? And then what are the steps that we can take to fix this and move forward? And that's what I looked at, and really, like, it really helped me to understand. I just dove really, really deep into marketing and started to understand, it's like, we didn't have a foundation. We just went, like, we just, you know, went guns blazing, and put the foot for that first foot forward or whatever. And from that point, it was just like, wow, I just dove more and more into marketing and understanding, like, what are the things that I can do different, and how can I, like, how, what if I did this? What if I did that? What if I started teaching? What if I started helping other farmers and producers and, um, you know, people out there that are wanting, like, they want to grow, they're ready to grow. Um, how can I help them avoid these mistakes? And that's really when it hit me that I needed to do something bigger. I needed to start this Farm Fresh Marketers. I needed a community of people that I was gonna work with to help grow their farm together. I wanted to be that person, the catalyst, the spark that you could use to grow your farm or take it to the next level, or avoid the mistakes at the very least. Just avoid the mistakes that we had made, and that's when that's when things really, you know, changed for me personally, because I'm so excited by it. Like, I thought before I started this, I thought I really was passionate about marketing and just the idea of marketing and teaching marketing and that. But now that I'm actually, like, literally, like, involved with farmers and actually helping them, you know, understand kind of where to go with things, and looking at things not just in a quick fix, like, how can I, you know, make $10,000 in sales next week? Like, it's, how can we look at this long term? What's your long term vision, and where are we going to go with this? And, like, looking at things at that level is so invaluable. And um, you know, being able to be a part of it with you is just, I don't know, just brightens my day. And I know that I'm just, I know this is where I'm meant to be. Like, this is something that I can do forever, and it'll be like it was for my grandpa. It won't be work for me. It won't be a struggle. It won't be hard. I won't get outworked. You know, even by a 22, 23-year-old kid when I'm 80 years old. Like, this is something that I'm dedicating, you know, myself to go out and serve and help others, um, and be a part of. And, you know, I'm can't tell you how much I appreciate that you are here, and, you know, that you took the time to watch this. And I really want to encourage you, you know, get out of your comfort zone, start sharing your story, start talking about what it is that you're doing and why you're doing it, guys. Because even even if it's, you just have to accept that at the beginning, it's not going to be great. You're going to struggle through different things, but you're going to get through those things, and you're going to be able to do something that you never thought you could do before. So, yeah, that's it for today. Today's not going to be one with a Q&A. I'm um, going to share more throughout the week on different things that you can do, different copywriting techniques, more about the Epiphany Bridge story that, or framework that Russell Brunson has. You know, there's so much that you can do to help tell your origin story. And the first thing is just getting out there and telling it. And just tell it, guys. So thanks again. Thanks again for joining. I hope that you got some value from this, and feel free to reach out, email or message with any questions. It's just Nathan at Farm Fresh Marketers. All right. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.